have a mighty big show tonight, guys. A big show. Hey, Mr. Campbell, I'm gonna be on my best behavior, by the way. Not every day that we have a SWAC legend coming on the show. Nobody's asking who this guy is.
Hey, can you you can't hear my fan, can you?
No, I can't.
Okay.
Let's give him a few more seconds to get in here. I see them piling in, they running in, trying to get a good seat. Oh, man, hey, we got our man. We got our main man in here. We got Scotty in here for this one.
Yeah, I'm glad Scotty in. I'm glad Scotty in.
Hey, we can. Hey, you plan on educating Scotty a little bit? I know.
Yeah. You know, he always reminded me of when I played. So I'm gonna throw some numbers out at him and see what these young boys doing compared to what we were doing.
I'd like to welcome everybody to HBCU Coaches Corner. I'm your host, Rocky Miller, along with my co-host, Mr. Campbell, the Rattler himself. But our featured host is always the reason why we're here at HBCU Coaches Corner is none other than the SWAC legend himself, Johnnie Cole, where on one cool Mississippi night, he dueled our guests and threw 6 touchdowns. I don't know who he threw them to, but I probably know who his opponent threw him to. But with no further ado, my man, Johnnie Cole.
What's up, man? What's up? Hey, well, let's get some straight. It wasn't no.
Hey, you muted,
night.
Coach.
It was a Texas night, so we need to get that
I can't hear
straight.
you, Coach.
Yeah, it was a Texas night, not a Mississippi night.
Can y'all hear?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can hear him now. My bad.
Can you hear?
Yeah, it was me. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Coach.
it wasn't no Mississippi night. It was a Texas night.
It was Houston, a Texas night. Okay.
Houston, Texas. And but man, I tell you what, man, I can't say enough about the man, not necessarily the player, because tonight I want to get into the player, and then we're gonna move on to his new position and all that. But as Bishop Campbell said, man, when you're talking about legendary SWAC football, man, you know, this guy's got to be mentioned in the top. And the thing about it, he came from nowhere. And we're gonna go back, and I want him to start there because, you know, so oftentimes, you know, we don't give SWAC, you know, the attention that it needs, you know, because we had extraordinary guys. And it's fortunate that the guy I'm about to bring in, we played back in the day when they were drafting, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 SWAC players. You know, so the competition was stiff. The opportunities was very few. When you got in there, you had to make sure that you got things done. And I tell you, man, this guy was he was Air McNair before there was Air McNair. You know, he kind of paved the way, as well as Doug Williams paved the way for him. And as my dear friend, always also a competitor, my friend Willie, the Satellite Totten.
Oh man, let me I'm gonna get it right eventually, Coach. Let me get the screen right. There we go, Coach. All right,
Coach. Man, Coach, I can't keep up with you, man. Boy, one thing you got, at least you got some gold on, you know. And we want to welcome you to the show. You now is the offensive coordinator for Fort Valley State University, and so we want to welcome you to the show, man. And thank you had the time to share it with us tonight.
Hey guys, I appreciate you guys having me. And yes, I'm a Wildcat. I'm ready to strike.
You know, I'm fortunate I opened my analyst career up at Fort Valley last year when they played Clark at that shootout. And man, the thing that I didn't know about Fort Valley was, man, the campus was so beautiful. You know, they've done, you know, I played them when I was at Lane College. I was a head coach there, and they what they've done to the stadium, you know, was just fantastic, man. And I just didn't believe that Fort Valley State University, man, was that big. I think it was a great university. You know, the people there worked with us. I was with HBCU TV Gold. All the administrators around made sure that we had what we need, and it was a first-class operation. So I want to take my hat off to Fort Valley State athletic administrator as well as the president.
It's no doubt, Johnny, that, and like I said, I appreciate you guys having me on, and that was my feeling exactly when I had the opportunity to come to Fort Valley. I was very impressed. I was very impressed with the campus. I was very impressed with the facilities. I was very impressed, though, with the warm arms of the administrators, the athletic director, AD Daphne Johnson, the president, Dr. Jones. You know, when I walked through those doors and had the opportunity to come here, and I was just amazed. You know, I was coming from Southern, and then you comparing, you know, Southern, and you comparing Fort Valley. I was very, very pleased. And you talking about right there along with one of the greatest institutions in HBCUs is Southern University. And now you're looking at Fort Valley, and Fort Valley is right there beside Southern.
Well, we hope that they understand who they got here. They got one of our SWAC legendary guys. Coach, man, you know, of course, we talk a lot on off the field. We kind of really met guys at the SWAC tour. You know, that's when we kind of really met personally, and we both was juniors, and you know, we had a great time meeting each other. Coach Totten, 5,000 yards. I want my audience to understand this man threw for let me say that, 5,000 yards and 56 touchdowns in one season.
No,
and
no, 58, Johnny. I threw 2 touchdowns in the playoffs.
Oh, okay. Look, you got to eat it all, Coach. Because, you know, when we start talking about when we battle, I'm going to make sure your numbers are right with mine. Because I want to say I got you that night. But you won the game, but I got you. But,
yeah, you did. Coach, you did. I can admit you did. You got me. Yeah. You're the first quarterback to have me benched, and Coach Cooley benched me that night because I didn't outdo you.
Wow. We're going to get into that, Coach, real deep, because you were surprised. I didn't play in the third quarter either. So my coach had benched me too. Coach, man, you choose Mississippi Valley State. You know, because I want everybody to know where we start. We're going to get to Fort Valley because that's the most important. Man, why did you choose Mississippi Valley State, and how did it all come together?
Well, I tell you, that's a long story. I mean, you know, back in high school, we ran the wishbone, the Notre Dame box, and during our time, the early part of the 80s, the late 70s, everybody was running the football, and how I got to Mississippi Valley. I got to Mississippi Valley as a punter because we didn't throw the ball a lot in high school. We ran the football. My both running backs rushed for over 1,000 yards in the backfield, and all I had to do in high school just turn around and hand the ball off. We had great running backs, and I ran the ball a little bit as well, but we didn't throw the ball as much, and I got discovered really as a punter.
You hear that, Bishop? The punter. But that says stuff about Archie Gunslinger Cooley. Rest his soul, that, you know, that was the thing about those coaches back in them days. They could look at guys and make sure they know how to put guys in different positions. So our hat goes out to Coach Cooley and his coaching staff for bringing you there. Now, where did you meet Jerry Rice? Did y'all start at freshman, or it kind of worked into it?
We started at true freshman. Jerry came in as a true freshman, and he had been recruited also, and they didn't throw the ball a lot at Crawford at B.L. Moore High School, so they didn't know his talent either. A lot of people passed up on Jerry because they wasn't throwing the ball, and they were running the football a lot in high school, and he kind of got passed up. And like you say, I'll take my hat off to Coach Cool. I give Coach Cool all the credit for really knowing how to project talent. He saw something in Jerry. He saw something in myself, and he saw something in all of the guys that he brought in that year. He brought in 30 freshmen that year, and he pretty much kind of had an idea of what he was trying to do, and we didn't have no idea what he was trying to do. And he brought guys from small schools. I went to a small high school. Jerry went to a small high school, and he didn't recruit a lot of kids from the big high schools. And he got a lot of guys who probably wouldn't have had an opportunity to go to college if Coach Cooley hadn't given them that opportunity.
Yeah. And one of the things that people don't understand, even today, when you're coming to recruiting, everybody is running for these 5-star and 4-star players. Now, you're a coach, you've been around, you've been a head coach before. What star would you give yourself?
Well, to be honest, in high school, I knew I could throw the football. I didn't have to throw the football in high school because of the scheme that we were running. But if I had to give myself a star, I would give myself a 4-star punter. I mean, I could really punt the football. I was averaging 45 yards a punt in high school, and that was kind of hard back in high school. You got a black kid that could punt the football, and I was real good at it. I was very good at punting the football, and that's kind of how I got discovered.
Wow. You guys want to jump in, or y'all taking my lead?
Of course, I want to jump in here. Coach, you say you were recruited as a punter, right?
That's right.
How did Coach Cooley discover that you could throw the ball as well?
Well, like I say, in high school, when we did throw the ball in high school, it was a touchdown. Everybody was trying to play 7 and 8 guys in the box to try to stop our running game. And I had a guy named Willie Ware, and also I had a guy named Roger Totten, which is my brother. They were great receivers. We threw the ball probably 6 times in the game, and out of those 6 attempts, 4 of them was touchdowns. And because the receiver used to be just wide open. And that's how I kind of got discovered. They knew I could throw the football, but I wasn't asked to throw the football a lot in high school.
Wow.
When you arrived on campus there at Mississippi Valley, did you have any idea you would have a chance to start as a freshman?
No, actually, I was redshirted, and that's how Jerry and I kind of got separated. We came there at the same time. Jerry came as a true freshman in 81. I was a true freshman in 81. Out of those 30 recruits, Jerry was the only freshman that played that year as a true freshman. And Coach Cooley redshirted everybody else. So we kind of watched Jerry, and I didn't play my freshman year because I kind of stayed hurt. Playing in the Mississippi Delta, those football fields were pretty bad, and I usually hurt my ankles a lot. So instead of risking a year, Coach Cooley redshirted me. I think that was his plan anyway, to redshirt that class. But Jerry was such an outstanding player that he was the only freshman that year that played.
Okay, so when did you actually get a chance to show your talent on the field?
Going into my redshirt year, sophomore year in class, I walked up during the spring of my freshman year, and I told all the quarterbacks, it was 7 quarterbacks, and I told those guys, next year I'm gonna be the starting quarterback. And at the time, they used to tease us about being a crab. They said, "Oh, crab, you're not gonna play here." not behind me. You know, and we had some big quarterbacks. Maurice Johnson was like 6'5", 230. You had Coleman. You had 4 or 5 guys in front of me were upperclassmen that probably would have had no chance of starting. But I told them I was going to be the starting quarterback when I got my opportunity. And when I got my opportunity, I never looked back.
So you were recruited by Coach Cooley, and did you know when you got recruited that he had that passing attack, or did you and Jerry develop that chemistry that created that passing attack? Was it the scheme, or was the scheme already there when y'all arrived, or was it something that developed when y'all arrived?
I think it's something developed because when we got there, like I say, everybody back in those days, everybody was running the football. We were actually running the veer. Excuse me. We were running the veer, and I had that background coming from J.C. George. We ran the football to Notre Dame box, which is the wishbone. We did run that, so I could run that type offense. And Coach Cooley started out running that offense. But then after he developed, he had some receivers that was pretty good. Joe Thomas, Cleo Armstrong, Curtis DeBarleben. So that what kind of forced him to do something different. And he tried the no huddle. He knew that I could throw the football. Once I got there and really developed to be a pretty good passer, he knew then that he had something different. And he wanted to do something that no one was doing at the time. And he started throwing the football, and that's what we started doing.
Yeah. It's amazing, Coach. It's amazing the numbers that y'all put up when today's football game is at least about 68-70% of passing. And I still don't know no quarterbacks that don't throw for 5,300 yards in one season. You know what I mean? That's incredible. And if that would happen now as opposed to then, I wonder if you would have got drafted to the NFL, as Steve McNair did.
Well, I tell you, those some times that was incredible. I think it was something new that they were not accustomed to, the all-out passing. And I really think people thought it was a joke. I remember the media asked Coach Cooley that we out there playing sandlot football, and we really had some big numbers. Chuck Prophet, at the time, the late Chuck Prophet was the athletic director. They thought that they were padding stats until some of the media actually came to the game and watched us playing, and they were just in awe of how we threw the football around, how guys was catching the football, and how guys were catching a 5-yard slant pass and taking for 40 and 30 yards for a touchdown.
Hey, Coach, I want to see if I can play something, Coach. You in a lot of Hall of Fames, Coach. You in a lot of Hall of Fames. I mean, I don't think there's a Hall of Fame that was created that you're not in, Coach. But I want to play this video of the Black College Hall of Fame, just to give our people who some idea of what you were able to do there, and hopefully you'll be able to hear the audio.
Willie Satellite Totten was born on July 4th, 1960.
Can y'all hear the audio?
Yeah, turn it up just a little bit.
As a quarterback for the Mississippi Valley State
I got it all the way, guys. Hold on.
Over 50 1AA records, playing in a no-huddle offense called the Satellite Express. Willie Totten and his favorite target, wide receiver Jerry Rice, flourished in this system. Both men earning nicknames for their incredible play. Totten became known as Satellite, while Rice was tagged world, and their coach, Archie Cooley, earned the label gunslinger for running this offense that allowed his team to score in bunches. Totten twice led the nation in passing and is Division I AA's all-time leader with 139 career touchdown passes. He ranks second in career passing yards with 12,711. 5 times he threw for more than 530 yards in one game. He went on to have brief stints in the NFL, CFL, and Arena Football League. In 1999, the school honored Totten and Rice by renaming the stadium the Rice-Totten Stadium. In 2005, Totten was enshrined in both the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame and the College Football Hall of Fame, becoming Mississippi Valley's first College Football Hall of Fame inductee. He was inducted into the Mississippi Valley Athletic Hall of Fame in 2006. Willie Satellite Totten, class of 2014, Black College Football Hall of Fame.
All right, I wanted to show that to kind of give our people who may not be as familiar with what you've done in Black college football, and really, your story is bigger than just Black college football, Coach Totten. What you, Jerry Rice, Archie Cooley, and your teammates were able to do really revolutionized the passing game, not only at the college level, but at the pro level. Kind of tell us, did you guys know what you were doing while you were doing that?
I don't think so. I think when Coach Cooley came out with that offense in practice, it seemed like he was just, just coming from the hip. I'll never forget at practice, he said, I tell you what, let's just line up on the ball. At the time, we were running a huddle. He just told us just line up on the ball. He said, Jerry, you go over there. Cleo, you go over there. Joe Thomas, you go over there. And, they call it the empty set now, where you got 3 receivers on one side, 2 on the other side. And we didn't know anything about that back then. And we were just looking at the stress that it was putting on the defense. Because if we walk the guy out, the defense have to walk somebody out. And that's why, now you talking about numbers. And I don't really think Coach Cooley, I think he had a vision, but I think he had no idea that his vision was going to revolution the entire passing game like we did. Even though I'll never forget when Coach Cooley went to the 49ers and when he went there, actually they took his ideals. They took his ideals and they started calling it the West Coast offense. And now everybody is doing it now. And I'll never forget when Coach Cooley came back and told us, we were watching him. Matter of fact, this is when Jerry had gone on to the NFL, and they was running some of the same formations that we were running in college. They were actually running at the 49ers. And then we said, look, we run that play. We run that formation. We run that play, and had no idea that they got that from us. It's just amazing how Coach Cooley took it to another level.
Man,
I don't think Totten, and we can kind of go over this. How many guys went to pro on that team? I know Carl Byron, Bob Curtis, you, Rice.
We had at that year, Jerry came out. When Jerry came out, we had 3 guys to go get drafted the year Jerry came out in '84. But actually, that next year, which was in '85, we had 9 guys to go get drafted.
wow.
85. We had 9
From Mississippi Valley?
From Mississippi Valley. We had that year, Carl Byron got drafted. Freddie Parker got drafted. Freddie Parker went to the Green Bay Packers. Carl Byron went to the Buffalo Bills. Willie Ware, who was our kickoff specialist, he went to the Green Bay Packers. We had 3 offensive linemen got drafted that year. And we had Joe Thomas, who went to Denver Broncos. And we had Curtis DeBarlaven the year before he went to the Houston Gamblers. So we had guys on that team to get drafted in, and no one really said a whole lot about that because of, Jerry was the kind of the highlight. But we had guys to get an opportunity, and we know that we give all that credit to Coach Cooley, because a lot of those guys, and I think JC said it earlier, we were nobody. I mean, we were guys from small high schools. No one really knew about us until we went to Mississippi Valley and really made a name for ourselves, and the rest of it is history.
Yeah. That's one of the things, Todd, that you know this too. One of the things I never worried about recruiting when I became a head coach. You just got to go find them. You kind of know where they are, and you got to develop them and make them into what. And nobody wants to do that anymore. The new coaches now, everybody wants to get, the microwave guy, that he's already a ready guy. And Bishop, and of course, Rocky, you learning, that was just at Mississippi Valley State. What about Grambling, Jackson State, Texas Southern, Alcorn? They all had great players.
Right.
I want to ask Mr. Campbell something, being that he's our SWAC historian, right? At the time that Willie Totten and Jerry Rice was playing at Mississippi Valley, what was the perception of Valley at that time? Can you kind of frame that up about what was Valley prior to them arriving on campus?
I'm gonna tell you like this, because see, once I get going, I'm gonna get going. I ain't gonna let y'all talk for the next 15 minutes, because we got the satellite on. Because see, y'all dance around stuff. So I got to get into it. But let me tell you something, and Coach knows this. They weren't a rival of Jackson State. They played Jackson State. For that's honest. And Valley was Valley. And there was a little school up there in Itabena. They come down and, they play, and Jackson State put 35, 40 on them, and then they go on about their business. And that's what it was, because it was Valley. And like I said, I'm going to let y'all ask y'all a question. I'm getting ready to set Coach up on how that took off, because there's a couple of similar games the year before that went into the magical season of 84. So, Rocky, that's what it was. It was Valley. Like I say, they were up there in the Delta. But again, you're talking about during the time where you're talking about Jackson State. You're talking about Grambling at their height, at their zenith, where you're talking about they're putting it in. Doug Williams had just left. You know what I mean? And things like that. So you're looking at those guys, and then, it was just for people in Jackson, that was just another game on the schedule.
Don't forget Alcorn. Alcorn,
right. Well, that's what I'm saying. But that was their rival. But Valley wasn't their rival. So now, Rocky, are you done? Because
I'm done. I'm ready to learn.
Okay, so now, Coach, listen, we got to school these folks on a couple of things. So one of the things, you guys started the 82 season. You were 5-5. That was really the best time. Right. You roll into the 83 season, and you play Jackson State, the closest you played them. Then you end up tying Grambling and beating Tennessee State at the end of the year. Right. Did you guys start to feel that, wait a minute, we kind of got something here, and that we kind of see when you start in the 82 season? Because that's when people really discovered satellite tile and like, wait a minute, hold on, these guys got some talent. And that 83 season was the one where people in Jackson were like, wait a minute now, they just tied Grambling down at Grambling and beat Tennessee State, a team that I think at that time, that went 9-2 that year. Right. So can you talk about that first, Coach?
I think that's a great point there, Brother Campbell. I mean, it really started, I think, when Coach Cooley redshirted that first class. When he redshirted that first class of 29 guys, and Jerry was the only one that played his true freshman year, we had a whole year to kind of gel together. And at the time, we really wasn't running the spread offense. I think Coach started developing that over the period of time, but we had a lot of talent. I mean, we had the offensive line. You talking about the ton of fun. They call them the ton of fun. Those guys up there 6'5", 6'6", I mean, 350, 345, that could move and could run, that other people looked at them as being fat boys, and they were too big to run, and they couldn't play. But Coach Cooley developed. I mean, we developed over the years, and like you said, I never had a losing season at Mississippi Valley. And it started in 82 when my first year I started, and we went 5-5, like you said. And then that next year, I think when we went 7-3-1, that's when it really started for us in '83. And that was a year that I hurt my knee. I hurt my knee against Southern that year. And that was the year that we came back and we tied grounding for homecoming. And I think that's when it really kind of sinked in that we had something special at Valley. And I think that's when the players really started believing. Because in the summertime, we had our entire team in summer school, and we practiced all the way up until we got ready to play. And people don't understand, we practiced 4 times a day. I mean, it was 4 times a day at the time. And we didn't complain like, guys complain now that we practicing too long. It was no such thing as practicing too long in the Delta. We go back at the Hideaway. It was on the backside of the campus. Nobody paid us no attention, and we just practiced. We practiced and we practiced, and we got better, and we started making teams in the conference believe that Mississippi Valley was for real.
Now, Coach, we moved to the '84 season, and people are now, it's starting to bubble, and people are starting to hear about this offense. So you guys start the '84 season, you play Kentucky State, and I remember in the Clarion Ledger, you guys went 86-0.
Right.
And nobody saw the game. It wasn't on TV. All we saw in the paper, wait a minute, Valley scored 86 points. But of course, people was like, hey, it's Kentucky State. A lot of people definitely in Jackson didn't know who Kentucky State was. Then you guys come back and you play Washburn.
Yep.
And then you guys you go 77. The next week is the game in Jackson.
That's right. That's right.
And Rock is here. And to my Jack, Coach, let me tell you something. Let me tell you one, and Coach will admit this. Even though the Alcorn game was the biggest, to me, the most important game that season was that Jackson State game. They come in there, Jackson State had beaten them 27 straight years.
28.
Okay,
Yep.
Coach, correct me, because I'm going off the top of my dome. So 28 years.
Right.
And you guys come in here, and this is the Jackson State Tigers, and 50,000 people, Coach, and they say 60. Well, as Scott is saying, 60,000 strong. It was 50,000 strong.
Right.
And Coach, you guys win that game. And let me just kind of roll this. You guys win that game 49-32. First of all, talk about being in that atmosphere in Jackson, beautiful night, and you guys showed the whole world what the Satellite Express was about.
Well, I think it started the year before in '82 when Jackson beat us. They beat us in Memphis at the Liberty Bowl, and that seemed like that whole year. That's all Coach Cooley. Coach Cooley was a graduate of Jackson State, and that was something that he always talked about, beating Jackson State. And coming up to that game, we just came off of 2 games where we dominated the opponent, Kentucky State and Washburn, and that was our true test. Our true test when we played Jackson State, if we could score against Jackson State and we could beat Jackson State, we knew right then that we definitely had made it. And that whole week, everybody thought that it was a fluke when we played those teams, that we scored all those points and it wasn't real. And we were just when we got to Jackson State was going to beat us like they always beat us. But I think that week we made believers out of ourselves because we were determined for Coach Cooley that we were going to beat Jackson State. And trust me, when we went in that stadium, we had our mind made up that we were going to win that game. And Jackson State pulled everything they could out of the hat, but they just couldn't do it. And I'll never forget Coach Cooley, ran around. We did a parade around the stadium, shaking hands, shaking fans' hands, and people asked me what's the most memorable game I had in my career. And that's always been the game that I talked about. I never talk about the Alcorn game. I always talk about that Jackson State game because we had beat Alcorn before, but we had never beat Jackson. And to do that, I mean, that's always going to be my top game forever. Same thing with Jerry. When you talk to Jerry, he'll say the exact same thing. When we beat Jackson State, that's probably the most memorable game of my career.
Now, Coach, wait, hold on, Rock. Hold on. Slow down. Just wait a minute. I'm cooking. So, Coach, you go for 526 yards in that game, and you're under the lights. And let me ask you a question, because one of the things I remember, because the game had kind of tightened up a little bit, and I remember. Do you remember the play when Jerry basically scores the touchdown to put you guys ahead? And it was kind of one of those ones. I think they tried to blitz you, which everybody was like, "Wait a minute." Do you remember that play, Coach? When they kind of.
I know every play that happened.
Kind of talk about that play, Coach, because I think when I go back and remember that, it was kind of like you looked at Jerry like, I know they're not about to do this. You hit this go route because, and I wonder because one of the guy, because I mean, like you said, they were doing zone, they were doing man to man, and I'm going to go back and look and see who the guy that was playing corner, because I think he got drafted too.
No, the guy he beat was number 24. I never forget. I think his name was Woods.
Woods.
I think he's a principal in Birmingham. I think his name was Woods. And yes, I remember that they came with an all-out blitz, and because I had a brace on, and they felt that I couldn't run. But all I need is a little time, because I could throw the ball backpedaling as far as I could throw the ball going forward. And I think that was one of the things that was unique about my style of play. I could drop back and still throw the football while I'm dropping back. Never set my feet, never plant or anything. I can just still throw it 30, 40 yards off one leg. And I think that's what happened on that play. They tried to blitz me, and I knew Jerry right now. We had our little signals that we give each other, and it was just a nod of the head. And that right there let me know Jerry finna go downtown, and all I had to do just make the throw.
Now, Rocky, let me tell you what's funny. There's a picture, and I was like, literally, there are 4 Jackson State defenders in his face, and as Coach said, literally off the back foot. And everybody, to think about it, when you're talking about 50,000 people in the stadium, you could hit 100, because we were like, no, and that ball just landed, and then Jerry did that famous. Hands up.
Hands up.
Hands up. And then that's what it was. Now, Rock, I'm going to let you go ahead, because I still
I want to ask, so you guys, I remember this growing up, like you guys were one of the teams that they would break in, and for whatever reason on the ABC game of the week, whether it be Notre Dame or Ohio State, they would report on what's going on with you guys, because what you guys were doing was so unique, right? But the one thing I always looked at was kind of, and you can look at, and I suggest you guys go look at Willie Totten highlights. There's tons of them out there. Coach, you had a way of passing the ball that made it look like it was a laser, like it was a pinpointed laser. Did you have a special grip of the ball and it was always a spiral? Like, how were you able to do that, Coach?
Well, Rocky, I think I was blessed with big hands, man. I got some hands that is unreal. I mean, and I could grip the football, and I didn't have to have the threads. I could throw the football without the threads, and I had a quick release. And I think that was my access that really helped me out a lot, because I could get the ball out quick. So by you blitzing me, it didn't matter, because I could get the ball out quick because I had a quick release.
And the other thing I always noticed, Coach, you could always hit now these is highlights, but you were always hitting the guys on the run, right? Was that something you guys practiced, or you were always hitting Jerry on the run, or one of the guys? It was almost dead in stride. Was that one of your special talents, or was that a function of the offense, or kind of just?
I think what happened, we developed that over the period of time, and I don't throw it to I don't throw the balls to the receiver. I throw it to a spot, and it's up to that receiver to go to that spot and catch the football. And a lot of guys didn't play because they couldn't get to the football. And that's why Jerry, a lot of times people see Jerry catching the ball because I'm throwing it to a spot. And that's something that I developed over the years. And that's something that I try to teach my quarterbacks now, that you throw the ball to a spot and it's up to that receiver to get to that spot to catch that ball.
Now, Coach, let me walk you through. So you guys, you beat Jackson, you go down and you beat Southern 63-45. But I think the seminal game for you guys also far as exposure was the game in the Hoosier Dome against Grambling.
Against Grambling, yeah.
40,000 people on BET. This is the first time we really, because now, people, because again, guys, and this is what, there was no internet. There was no thing. You just had to read the paper. And if you weren't in Mississippi, you didn't see the level of play. But that game on BET, Circle City Classic, tell us about that game and how much that meant for you and the Valley program, that everybody in the country, because that's when everybody was like, hey, you got to watch this game. And I think that was, and if I remember correctly, that held the record for a long time as the highest rated BET game ever.
Right. And that was a great game. Charlie Neal, he called that game. And we talk about that now a lot. When Charlie and I sit down and we'll be talking, we always talk about that game. And at that time, we were bigger than life. We just beat Jackson State. We just beat Southern. And now we going to play against the legendary Eddie Robinson. And I think the hype for that game was just as big as when we beat Jackson State for the first time. And at the time, Grambling, they were undefeated. They were heavily favored, even though we had set all the records and we had threw all the touchdowns, but everybody still felt that Grambling was going to beat us. And I remember saying that people were talking about you guys are going up against the legendary coach Eddie Robinson. And I'll never forget, I said that all due respect to Coach Robinson is not going to play. We're going to play those guys that when they get on that field, they're going to be in trouble. If they can't stop that express, they're going to be in trouble. And that's exactly what we did. They could not stop us. I mean, they scored too, and we just outscored them. And I'll never get Jerry caught a slant pass and went 70 yards for a touchdown.
Now, Coach, let me ask you a question. Now, did y'all get new jerseys for that game? Because that red was red that day. Did they give y'all new jerseys for that game? Because everything looked crispy that game.
Well, that's the game we broke out the all red.
That right? Okay.
Coach Cooley was a guy that he was a showman. And he liked to dress nice, and he wanted us. He always said, if you look good, you play good, and we use that as a slogan. We use that as a motivation. So when we come out on that field, we wanted to be clean. And that's when we broke out the red uniforms, and that red looked good on TV. When I used to go back and look at those games, and it's just amazing to me how we just exploded. And Grambling had a good football team. Grambling was heavily favored, and we came out in all that red, and we put on the show.
What was the score of that game, Coach?
That game,
48-36. 48-36.
48-36, yeah.
Now, Coach, now you beating the big bad Grambling Tigers, and then you guys roll into Houston, Texas, and happen to play against somebody on this screen. The legendary. Now, Coach, tell us about that game. Now, that game there was a 55-42 victory. Now, tell us the story. Coach, you said you got benched that game.
Yeah, I got benched, and that's the time when JC and I became friends. That year we went on the SWAC tour. We met each other on the bus, and you know how guys talk smack. I was never a smack talker, but JC always been a smack talker. And he was talking a lot of noise. I was like, who is this little bitty dude talking all this noise? But he could play though. I mean, he could really play. I think that year we ended up 1-2. Of course, JC ended up was number 2, and I was number 1. But we had a battle, man. When we went in that stadium, I'll never forget. they had a good combination too, because we couldn't stop JC and we couldn't stop Corbett. That was his number one guy, and they were, man, as soon as we would score, they would score. And I have always had respect for JC Game, and he could really throw the football. They didn't throw the football as much as we did, but they were throwing the football a lot that game. And I think it came down to the shootout, and Coach Cooley thing was his biggest thing. Can't nobody stop mine, in that game, I think he got a little upset because Texas Southern was outplaying us. They really was outplaying us, and he got so mad when we finally got the lead. And he took me out and took Jerry out, and we just ran the football to try to keep the ball away from Texas Southern, and that's how we ended up winning the game. I think the game ended up being 55-45, and we almost lost that game.
Yeah. It was a good game, man. But talking about the SWAC tour, man, I can remember Victor Hall, Jackie linebacker? Yeah,
Jackie Walker.
Jackie Walker, and and those rides, Todd, when we used to be back and listen to the Gunslinger and Eddie and Marino Cassim and W.C. Gordon. I mean, you had all this greatness on this bus, man. It was just incredible, guys. Just being a 20-year-old man, watching these guys, and they were showmen. I mean, they would get up, and we would go from city to city to city where we play at, and have this banquet. And man, they would just, people would come from all over the place to hear them talk, about, what they gonna do, what they ain't gonna do. And, Gunslinger was, Archie was a showman, man, not just as well on the field, but off the field as well. So those was great times, man. Coach, he still threw for 358, Rocky. I just threw for 405. You know what I mean? He still threw for 3 touchdowns. I had 6 that night. So it was still, stuff going back and forth, man, with Coach, man. Todd,
were y'all playing on air? Did y'all play? Was any defenses there?
It was on television, and the game lasted almost 4 hours.
Yeah,
the game was on television,
and that was the game that Jerry got discovered. He really got discovered by Bill Walsh that game. He came over and he watched Jerry play, and I'll never forget. He told the story that he watched him in the hotel, and he watched that game because Jerry did put on a show, even though we didn't play as well as we had played the previous games. But that's how he got discovered, though.
Let me ask you, Coach. Let me ask Coach one thing. I know you were a player back then, and you were sought after as well. I know from talking to other scouts, pro scouts, during those times, a lot of them got fired because they didn't rank Jerry as a first rounder.
Right.
Bill Walsh came and snuck him. Nobody really knew. So my question to you really was a lot of scouts coming out there to see him, or
we did
doing practice and stuff?
We had scouts there every day. I mean,
okay.
every that's I'm telling you, man. It seemed like then we seemed like we were celebrities. I mean, we had major TV networks, sports network. We had scouts at practice every day.
Okay.
And I think what happened is a lot of those guys are looking at Mississippi Valley as just what I said. They said that it didn't seem like it was real. What we were doing didn't look real, but it was real. If you came to the game and you watched the film, it was incredible, and we were not trying to set records. We were just out there having fun. And I know teams after that and trying to set records. And if we were really trying to set records, I think we could have put them out so far that no one probably could ever break them. Because a lot of time I didn't even play in the fourth quarter. But scouts was at the game. Yes, they were there. But sometimes you miss, and they definitely missed on Willie Totten.
Well, let me hold on. Let me add something to that too, because I give you perspective of that for people that don't remember. Al Toon went early to the Jets. Eddie Brown went to Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody thought, now mind you, this is back in the time when Cowboys were really America's team, them and Pittsburgh Steelers. Everybody thought that Jerry Rice was going to get drafted by the Dallas Cowboys. But who had the pick in front of them? The San Francisco 49ers. And that's how Jerry Rice became a 49 because Dallas had scouted him, kind of kept it under wraps.
That's right.
They kept it under wraps because they thought they had discovered him. They thought they had discovered him.
Yeah, Gil Brandt used to be at our practice. That was a scout. He used to be at our practice every day.
And what happened, Coach, on another thing, he came in. I think he came because I don't think this is before the private jets because I think he came to Jackson Airport and tried to sneak in almost a little bit to let it be known. So that's why I want people to understand the level of people to understand the talent they have. Now, Coach, I'm trying to get us through because I'm getting to a point. You guys blow Prairie View out, you put 70. The game of the century. One of the seminal games in the history of HBCU football. You all basically 1 and 2 Alcorn in black college football. Tell us about that game. 63,000, which I think is still the record in that stadium.
Still the record. Yeah,
still the record. Move the game to a Sunday, shown on WLBT. Coach, talk about, and not only that, the level of play that you saw between yourself, Jerry Rice, and Isaac Holt. That was just a battle within itself. Tell people about that game because, guys, I'm going to tell you something. This was one of those games that, for the younger people, you remember the Texas USC game? This was on that level of that type of the feel of the game, the level of play. Because, again, to Coach's point, everybody knew about the Satellite Express. Mm-hmm. Everybody knew it. They were a national phenomenon. And then, again, to play Alcorn. So, Coach, talk a little bit about basically the game of the century.
Well, it was just that. I mean, they knew coming up to that game, and Chuck Prophet, the athletic director, they had to move the game because both teams was undefeated. We had the #1 offense in black college football, and Alcorn at the time had the #1 defense in black college football. So they kind of blew the game up, and they said that to play that game at Mississippi Valley, we probably wasn't going to have enough room. So what they did that Saturday, Mississippi State and Ole Miss played in the stadium that Saturday. And in order for us to play, we had to play on a Sunday. So we couldn't play the game that Saturday, so they moved the game to that Sunday, and that's how we ended up playing on Sunday. And we played it at the time when people had the opportunity to go to church and then come to the game. I think the game was at 2:00. I remember when we got to the game is at 2:00. We get to the game around 10:30, 11 o'clock. It was like 30, 40,000 people already in the stadium. Wow. This is before we even get to the stadium. The stadium was already packed. And when we walked out there for pregame, and I couldn't believe it. It seemed like we were walking on cloud 9 because of the energy in the stadium. It was just phenomenal. And to see that many people in that stadium and to come out there and play the way we did, we put on a show. I mean, Alcorn jumped out on us, and we came back and tied the game up 28-28. And I mean, people were going crazy, and they had a good game plan. They held every game. They held every play. They was holding Jerry and the receivers, and they were going to make the referee call the game. And the referees, they were not going to call a holding on every play. They called some holding, but there's a lot of them they didn't call because the game was so long, because they could have called holding on every play. And I think that was their scheme. Their scheme was to hold.
Yeah, when you say that, Coach, see, they played a lot of man coverage. That's all what Marino Castro ever believed in was man on man. And they had what, 2 or 3 guys got drafted from that secretary. One couple of them were all pro.
They did.
Yeah.
They did. Isaac Holt. I know. We went back and looked at the film. Isaac Holt and Jerry. That was the show. That was everybody would come to see that combination. But they was holding. Ike Holt was holding Jerry underneath, and then Tony Wolfall was holding Jerry over the top. So they played him. They had two safeties and they played man across the board. They played.
Well, I'll say this as a Dallas Cowboy fan, and unfortunately, at some point, Ike Holt became a Dallas Cowboy, and he never stopped holding in, and they was calling it.
Right.
So,
right. Well, that and you know, after that game, we talked about, you know, the holding coach. We went back and looked at the film. Coach Cooley, he wrote into the conference office, and we counted, even though they had a lot of penalties that game, we counted 24 holds that they didn't call. So that means that game probably would have gone 6 hours if the referee would have thrown the flag on every time they was holding it. And they had a good scheme. I mean, we should have been running the football, but Coach Cooley, I'll never forget, he said, "They can't nobody stop my shit." And so and what happened? I think that game, Coach Chasm, they had a great game plan. They only rushed 3 guys.
Yeah.
Now, Coach, I'm gonna say one thing about that game in Mississippi history. That was the game, and I'm telling you, Rocky, this is honest God truth.
Coach Battery may have died, so he may have to come back and get with us because it looked like he froze on us.
Well, let me say this, man. That game was over 62,000. That was question. They had so many people that you couldn't even walk up the steps. They had started covering the steps because there was just so many people there. And you know, and Willie Totten, out of the player, he just as good as the man as well. And nobody has accomplished that feat that Gunslinger accomplished with that team. But Willie is the only coach that got close when he was there coaching in Mississippi Valley as the head coach. And that was a great opportunity for him to come back and be the head coach, and actually took him. And I think that one winning season, and matter of fact, he beat us when we were at Alabama State. So he did just as good a job, you know, being a player as a coach in Mississippi Valley.
Let me ask you this, Coach Cole, because I want to get back to the Satellite Express for a moment, Coach. When you guys were watching the Satellite Express on film, right? And I know you weren't a defensive player at all, but you had defensive players on your teams, and at the end of the day, were they shocked by what they were experiencing on the field? Like,
well, let me say this: they were so exciting that I know at my camp at Texas Southern, hell, we watched the defensive side and the offensive side. They were putting up so many numbers. I mean, you was like, sheesh, man, what are they doing on the defensive side of the ball? I mean, on the offensive side of the ball. You know, me being a quarterback. But it was all over. I mean, you know, the formations they've had was like, it's almost like when somebody is running trick plays all the time. And they got, man, this ain't no football. This ain't no football. Because they were doing stuff that never had been done, you know, on a college level. You know, stacking 3 receivers back, going no back, 3-2, 4-1. You know what I mean? Coming with the jet sweep. I mean, it was amazing to watch. It's no different than what they're doing now. You know what I mean? It's just that they didn't get a lot of credit for it. You know what I'm saying? And they actually made defenses change. You know what I mean? They you couldn't just sit there and play 40 down and have everybody up front. You had to play back. Because let me say this to you, and Todd talked about them. They had the tons of fun. Every guy on the offensive line was 300 plus.
300 plus.
And they were athletes. And then Carl Byron was set at about 6'1", 6'2", tailback. You know what I'm saying? And then they had all the wide receivers with Joe and DeBarlo, and those guys were quick, fast guys that got bubble screens. I mean, they were doing all and going no huddle. You know what I'm saying? So It was exciting to watch, man. You know, it was a pleasure. But at the end of the day, he got off. I think he'll come back. What win championships? Rocky, you always said defense and what else? The run
Coach,
game.
the run game, yeah.
The run game.
Yeah.
And that was Marino Cassim's thing. Marino Cassim was gonna run that football.
He was going to shorten the game on him.
Yeah, and they were gonna play man coverage on the backside and stop your run on the front side.
Yeah, Perry Qualls was a running back. I think he ran for over 200 yards that game. And what they did, and Coach, you could say, correct me if they had, and literally Marino Castle said to Isaac Hope, wherever he go, you go.
That's right.
And everybody else was in the cloud. And man,
Isaac Hope was traveling, huh?
Listen. And he literally said in the interview, they said, well, Coach, what did you tell him? He said, you go where he go. That was the play. I remember that in the press conference. You go where he go. And literally, it was just amazing to see this at this high level. And one of the things I wanted to just say, you're talking about, Rocky, 64,000 people. At least almost 20,000 were white.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And you're talking about, and I will say there's never been a time in the state of Mississippi from that time on where other than Maywood McNair, but still wasn't 20,000 white people, that you had that many white people because like the coach said, Ole Miss had already played, Mississippi State had already played. All these people had heard about Mississippi Valley because Alcorn was an afterthought. It was like, oh, Valley's just going to score 80 and keep it rolling. Alcorn was an afterthought because people wanted to see Jerry Rice and Willie Totten. And to see that many white people, I will never forget when we walked in that stadium because it was kind of weird because the white people were like, where do you sit? Do you it's a assigned seating where, it was general admission for our seats and everything. So they was like, no, you can sit there. And to see the camaraderie and the level of play. Now, mind you, during this time, Jackson State, Alcorn, Valley, it was clear they had the best players in the state. Ole Miss was horrible. Mississippi State. And USM was pretty good during that time. Because they had a guy named Reggie Collier that was just crazy. Coach, you might remember Reggie Collier.
I remember him. He was a quarterback.
Yeah, quarterback. I think he played for the Cowboys for a hot second, maybe. But that was the only team. But Ole Miss and Mississippi, they were horrible. They were horrible during that time. So you're talking about all these people that really wanted to see the best football players play. And you're talking about, again, what Alcorn had from the defense, what Valley had. So, again, I just wanted, because that was the season that Valley will literally never forget, honestly.
So let me ask you this here, because you're from Mississippi, Mr. Campbell, and in Texas, integration, where University of Texas, Texas Tech, Baylor, and Houston, even in the 80s, right, they weren't taking as many blacks as they ultimately would end up taking. But they were taking, I would say, 20. There was 20 guys on the team, maybe 15, maybe 15, 20 guys on the team. What did the Ole Miss team look like in the 80s?
Mississippi State and Southern Miss was really black. The problem with Ole Miss is that they didn't want to take them. Nobody would go. You would never, when they would try to recruit, first of all, they never recruited Jackson because they knew not to even come to Jackson. So they would stay up there and get a lot of kids. They would get half the guys from Memphis that they would get.
Okay. Yeah.
So they would never, ever really get. And there was a guy named Chris Osgood from the Mississippi Gulf Coast, was the first big-time player that went to Ole Miss. And he shouldn't have never went. Everybody said he should have went to Jackson State. He should have never went to Ole Miss. And Chris Osgood took his butt up there to Ole Miss and ruined. But he was like the number one quarterback in the country. And
Coach T.
So, you back, Coach?
Hey, I'm back, man. But look, my phone went dead, man. My phone went completely out.
Hey, Coach, I was just making a point, and then we could just close out because I just wanted to close out with this last thing. I was telling them how historic the game was because that was the time, and it's never happened again, where it was clearly almost 20,000 white people that came to see you guys to watch the game.
Oh, it's no doubt because everybody that I ran into that was white said they were at that game.
Even if they weren't there, huh, Coach?
And they were for real. They said that every time I go places, and they'll say, "Look, man, I remember that game that y'all played in the state. I was there." I was there. That's what they would say. But you know what though, guys? Even though we played that game, no one never talked about who won.
No.
You know, at the end of that game, even though they beat us 42-28, you know, they did a hell of a job on a drive, and they scored 35-28. And I think they had like a 13-14 play drive with Moon, and that's how they beat us. And then I don't count that interception at the end because Hope was holding. He was holding. Jerry slipped down, and he stepped in front of the pass and picked the ball off, and that's how they ended up making it look like it was a lopsided score. But that game was a tight game the entire game, though.
Well, Coach, that you know, to be that is not only Mississippi history, that is Black history. That game, because again, you're looking at people consider Jerry Rice the greatest of all time.
Right.
You one of the greatest all-time college quarterbacks of all time, and for all the people, and that's what I was telling Rocky. I grew up in a time, and Coach, you notice every game there were NFL quality players, first rounders, second rounders, and things like Hall of Famers that went on to be Hall of Famers. So to be in that stadium that day, and I'll tell you this too, and Coach, one of the things as a Jacksonian, because you know Ole Miss would come in that stadium and Mississippi State, and they never sold it out.
Yeah,
They never sold out.
Yeah, 40,000 was the most they had put in.
And the pride that we had, it said it took the Black schools to sell their stadium out. And
Right.
that was just a big thing in Jackson, the pride. And Jackson State wasn't involved because they put 50,000 with it. And just to see between the Jackson State game of 50,000 and you guys with Alcorn, 64,000, I think nobody will ever forget that. And Coach, I'm just telling you as somebody, and again, we had a lot of kids that's on the playground. We would run that Valley Stack. We would be in the street. And I'm going to say this, and I want to end it because, like I said, the rest of it, but that was the most important thing. Of course, you guys played in the playoffs and everything. But, Coach, to this very day, the Minnesota Vikings is running a Valley Stack 40 years later. How do you think about that when you're watching the NFL and they still run the Valley Stack?
Well, that's what you talk about legacy. You know, when you can build and people can trust and believe in what you did 40 years ago, that means you had something good. And for teams to continue to run the stack offense and to run the formations that we ran back in the day, I can't say enough about my coach. And, you know, I know he's resting and he's looking down on us from heaven, but he was a genius. And a lot of times people didn't give Coach Cooley the credit that he deserved. You talk about Jerry and you talk about myself, and we both are in 7 Hall of Fames, and Coach Cooley need to be in those Hall of Fames too. I mean, because it wasn't the Coach Cooley, it wouldn't be no Willie Totten, it wouldn't be no Jerry Rice. And I know that for a fact, and I said that at his funeral, that Coach Cooley deserved and he need to be in the Hall of Fame, in the Mississippi Hall of Fame. He's in the SWAC Hall of Fame. He's in the Valley Hall of Fame, but he need to be in the College Hall of Fame because Coach Cooley did some great things that no other coach even dreamed of back then.
Well, let me ask you this here. You know, Mr. Campbell mentions the Valley Stack. You know, that's really the first time I've heard it coined, that phrase. Again, I'm a newbie to SWAC and HBCU, so correct me if I'm wrong. But this one thing I do know is that a lot of times when they start talking about the run and shoot or the spread offense, they bring up names like Mouse Davis and Eric Coryell and all this kind of stuff. How does that make you feel being part of that pioneering offense? And like I say, I don't know what Mouse Davis and Eric Coryell's contribution to the spread offense was, but can you say without a doubt that there was no spread offense or proof of concept of the spread offense until you guys ran it in Valley?
Well, I think Portland State was running with Neil Lomax. I think they were running a similar to the run and shoot, the wide open. Coach Cooley didn't call it the run and shoot. Coach Cooley he called it the express, and that's kind of where I got the name from. because we used to have 5 receivers. No one were using 5 receivers. But I like to think that Coach Cooley was a mastermind of putting that offense together. Whether it was a plan or he didn't plan it, but it turned out to be remarkable, and everybody is using it. And I would really like to see people give Coach Cooley his credit. I mean, I know he's not here to see it or to hear it, but I'm still here. Jerry's still here, and we know where it originated from. It originated from Mississippi Valley State University.
Well, let me ask you this here, Coach, because I'm a old, and this is gonna be the football nerd in me, and I'm gonna ask you this question, and some of you guys may know it, whatever. But were there any option routes in your version of the spread offense, or was every route predetermined?
It was predetermined based on the coverage. If they was going to give us man, we knew exactly what route they were going to run. If they gave us zone, we knew exactly what we were going to run. So we really had like two plays, and those plays were based off of what the defense was going to give us. We're going to have a guy going inside. We're going to have a guy going outside. Now, you guys make y'all mind up who's going to go inside and who's going to go outside. Because all I know is if I'm going to throw the ball to the inside, I'm going to throw it to a spot. Whoever gets to that spot is the one going to catch the football. So it got to be kind of a masterpiece. It's hard to really try to defend it because those guys, we practice so much. Like I say, that we practice 4 times a day. And we knew exactly, everybody knew exactly their role. Everybody knew exactly where they were supposed to be on the field. And it was hard to stop. It really was hard to stop.
Now, Coach Cole, while you dropped off, he mentioned that you at one point coached at your alma mater for several years and had some success while you were there. Did you run a version of the Gunslingers offense while you were there, or did you run something different?
We ran a version of it. We ran a version. Back then when we were running, people didn't know how to defend it. Now everybody, you got these defensive coordinators who are smart. They know football too, and now they run a lot of mixed coverages, a lot of disguised coverages. So it's not as effective now as it was when we ran it back in the day because nobody knew how to stop it. Now people are just dropping people in coverage and now making the quarterback make a decision and making either you're going to throw it in the zone or you're going to throw it up the field. So
let me say something, Coach, because I'm not a guy that I don't hate the spread offense. I do enjoy the spread offense, but this is what I think the problem is as a football guy, as a football nerd. What you were able to do as a quarterback and what other guys were able to do, whether it be Andre Ware, whether it be Case Keenum, whether it be, I forget the guy out of Hawaii that did that. Those are rare skill sets for quarterbacks. Not every guy that takes the snap can do that, Coach, can throw the ball 50, 60 times a game. And the issue is not that they can't physically do it, but the judgment of a quarterback that's having to deliver the ball 50, 60 times. To me, that's the greatest asset of a guy, Colt Brennan. If you're going to do that, you have to have a guy that has impeccable judgment and be really quick mentally. Do you think, and I'm going to ask you this, do you think guys are putting these spread offenses a lot of time that does not possess the skill set or the mental quickness, arm quickness to actually execute it?
I think in some cases, yes. I mean, I threw the ball one time 75 times in one game. 75. And I completed 46 of those out of that 75. And I think now it's hard to do that because you don't have offensive coordinators who are patient enough, or you don't have head coaches who are patient enough to let a guy throw the ball that many times. because now everybody now is the run and shoot, and the field get narrow once you get down in that red zone, and it's kind of hard to really throw the football like you want to throw it down there. And I think football is a copycat league. I mean, when you now everybody now is into the RPOs. I mean, the RPOs is nothing but just run or pass. And I think it's a copycat. Everybody's copycatting off of that now because it don't take a skilled quarterback to be able to do that if you got great running backs. So it just all depends on what you believe in and what you are trying to accomplish.
Coach, what I'm simply saying is, I'm sure Coach Cooley tried to replicate this same offense with a different quarterback. Did it ever reach the heights that it had when you were the trigger man?
I don't think it did because Thomas Leonard was the quarterback the year after me, and his stats was nowhere near my stats. So I think it has some merit to it in terms of the skill set of the quarterback, and I think it has also the merit of what the offensive coordinator believe in. I think Coach Cooley saw something in me that I didn't see, and we did some remarkable stuff. And I think if I was quarterback now, I think I can still do the same thing because I think it was just a skill set I had because I had a quick release. I could get the ball out quick, and I think you have guys now who can throw the ball the same way, but I think it's a different mindset.
And Coach, this has been a pet peeve on a lot of the HBCU sports media platforms, and because we have you on, I got to ask you this question: what do you think about quarterback play in the SWAC the past 4 years, and what can be done to improve?
I think it's not so much the quarterback play. I think it's the play calling. I think the coordinators, based on what they're trying to do, really kind of dictate to what that quarterback can do. You know, everybody want to throw the football, but you got to have a quarterback that you believe in because a quarterback is going to make mistakes. If you throw the football as much as teams want to throw, that quarterback is not going to always be as accurate as you want him to be. And I think coordinators have to understand that. And I think sometimes we get impatient as coordinators, and we don't give that quarterback enough leeway to make those mistakes because quarterbacks now that I've seen in the conference, you make a mistake, a lot of times coaches take you out, or you playing a dual quarterback, or you playing another quarterback, and I think that's has been the hinder. Either you make a decision of what you're going to do and do it, or you don't do it. And I think that's kind of been what the coordinator believe in.
Now, Coach Cole has a bias in his, as far as play callers and as far as OCs. Coach Cole, I'm gonna be honest with you. Coach Cole says, if you ever took a snap, you have an advantage as a play caller and as a quarterback coach. Do you agree?
I think so. Yes, I agree. Because the reason I'm saying that is, I'm not saying that you can't be a great quarterback coach if you never played quarterback. But I'm saying that if you played the game, you know exactly what that feels like. And you know how to instruct and tell that young man who's playing quarterback what to expect and what to look for. And I think it makes a difference when you have played the game or you've taken that snap, you understand what that quarterback is going through.
So what you're saying is, Coach, that's a pretty bold statement for you to say, Coach, when I asked you about the quarterback playing SWAC. You're putting it basically on coaching and quarterback development. That's what you're simply saying is the issue. It's not a talent issue. It's not a player issue. It's a quarterback. It's a player development and coaching issue.
That's my opinion. Yes, I really think that if you played the quarterback position and you understand what it's going to take, I think you have to develop and you have to trust and you have to give him the ring. I mean, you have to let him make those mistakes. Some things you may have to let him work out. And I know winning is everything now, and sometimes, you know, people don't have the patience to wait on the guy. They want a guy to do it right now. And I think if Coach Cooley would have given up on me a long time ago, I wouldn't be in this seat right now. I don't think I would have been the quarterback or developed to be the quarterback I turned out to be, because I made a lot of mistakes at the beginning. And I think Coach Cooley had the faith in me to give me the rein to let me make those mistakes, because I threw one game, I threw 6 interceptions, but I threw 9 touchdowns. So it kind of balanced out. But now coordinators don't have that kind of patience. If a quarterback throw an interception now, first thing they want to do is take him out. And I think quarterbacks now, especially in HBCUs, I think sometimes it's a delicate, in a very delicate situation, because winning is so prevalent now that if you don't win, you out of there. So I think it's just a matter of opinion.
All right, hey, Coach, since we moving on to the coaching spot and talking about dual quarterbacks, I know at Southern University, you was in exactly that situation there, you know. And I know, you know, you was just the quarterback coach. You wasn't the offensive coordinator, and you correct me if I'm wrong. And you guys had a dual situation there. You know, matter of fact, it actually got one of the head coaches let go. What was going on there? That's some of the things that you were talking about? You know, because when you're not that coordinator, you know, you're just the quarterback coach, then definitely you gotta do what they ask you to do. How was that situation? Because y'all had 2 guys there, and they were battling back and forth, and it seemed like they battled through the whole season. But you agree when I agree that when you choose that guy, you gotta let that guy, you gotta trust him, you gotta let him make some mistakes. My thing is, I've always said, as long as when he comes off the field, he's talking quarterback talk instead of some about he's seen and what. He's got to give me some reasons and everything else. So how was that situation at Southern?
Well, I thought we had 2 good quarterbacks. Now I'm not against a playing 2 quarterbacks. I'm not totally against that. I think you have to go along with what the head coach want to do, and I have always been a team player, regardless of what I think should go. But if that's the way the head coach or the coordinator want to go, that's where I'm going to ride, and that's the way I'm going to try to get those quarterbacks to understand that. And that's what we did at Southern. When I was at Southern, I thought Noah was a good quarterback. I thought Blood at the time was a good quarterback. But they both guys brought something different to the game. Noah was more of a dual threat. Blood was more of a drop back, accurate passer. And it just was a feel. It was a feel, who moving the football, and that's what we went with. And I was in supportive of that all the way. And the same thing with the next year, basically the same thing. Whatever the head coach want to do, or whatever the coordinator want to do, that's what I'm going to roll with.
Coach, were you there with Coach Dooley as well?
Yes, I came in. Coach Dooley is who hired me.
Were you there the first year when
Yeah.
when y'all? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Coach. So go ahead.
Well, I was gonna move on to now. You know, you would stay the quarterback coach, right? And then now you here at Fort Valley State University. How did that kind of come about? Were you ready to go? Was it an opportunity to take a coordinator spot?
Basically, that's what happened. I mean, Coach Marlon Watson, who's our head coach, we worked together at Alabama A&M, and he had an opportunity to be a head coach, and when we talked about it and I interviewed with him for it, it was the fact that, when Johnny, when you're in this game, you have to kind of go with people that you know. And I was very grateful and very thankful that Coach Watson thought about me to give me the opportunity to be a coordinator. At Southern, I was okay. I was pleased at Southern being the quarterback coach. I thought Coach Frederick, we worked well together. He was the offensive coordinator and the running back coach, and I was the quarterback coach, and I thought we worked well together. But whenever you get an opportunity to be able to coordinate, and I thought it was just the right time when I got that opportunity to call it again, and I took that opportunity, and I think I made a pretty good decision.
Now, Coach Totten, Coach Cole prides himself and relishes the fact to call plays. You see him smiling, Coach, every time I talk about calling plays. You see what he's doing right there? That's what he do. And I see you got a smile on your face, Coach. Will you be calling the plays at Fort Valley State?
Yes, I will be. And, along with Coach, I'm going to consult with him and what he want to do. I'm going to pretty much run the offense. But whatever Coach want to see, if you want to see something, we're going to collaborate together, and we're going to be able to make it work. I mean, the way Coach have talked to me, and Coach Marlon said that, it's going to be my offense. But I really believe in working together with the entire offensive staff. I think I got a great staff, and we're going to coordinate, and we're going to put it together. And, only one guy can call it. But I think everybody will have some input. The wide receiver coach, the offensive line coach, and also with the head coach. Everybody will have some input on what we're going to do. And we want to win. And I think that's what Coach's motto is. It doesn't really matter what we're going to run. Is winning is the answer at the end of the day.
Now, is he an offensive guy or a defensive guy?
No, Coach is a defensive guy. Coach been a defensive coordinator. He's mainly been a linebacker, special team guy. But I know Coach. He gonna pay attention to what's going on the offense, and we want him to, because we want him to be in tune of what we're doing offensively. And that's some things from a defensive standpoint that he may see that we may need to do offensively. What we need to attack by being a defensive coordinator, being a defensive guy, he know the weakness, he know what to attack, and if he say, "Hey, Coach, we need to attack the weak side of a defense," that's what we're going to do. We're going to attack the weak side of the defense.
So, Coach, in other words, if the play is Y, a spider 2 Y banana, you're going to be making the call to the quarterback. The stuff behind the scenes, you guys have to work out. But you will be communicating directly with the quarterback about what the play is.
That's the plan. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, you guys had spring practice. You've gotten in there, and how you feel as far as where you guys are coming out of the spring?
Well, we didn't actually do a full spring. We got in 9 days. We just kind of wanted to feel the guys, and it was more of a trust factor for us. And Coach was trying to build that trust factor among the players, and the players trusting us, we trusting the players, and trying to put a piece together. We had an opportunity to go out for 8 days, and we did kind of see what we can and cannot do. Our numbers was a little small, but I think we accomplished a lot during the spring. I think we had an opportunity to evaluate some guys and know what we needed to go out and try to recruit. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that. I think we're still looking for some pieces. But for the most part, I think we have a base in place, and now we just have to go and build from there.
Yeah. Now, what are the areas that you coming in and doing your evaluation that you think you guys had to improve in? I guess mostly just on the offensive side of the ball.
I think offensively, we got to improve on offensive line. I think we end up coming out of spring with, I think, 12, 13 offensive linemen. we were able to go out and sign a few more guys, talk to a few more guys, and I think that's the big improvement. I think we once we improve the offensive line play, I think skill guys. I think we're okay at the skill position because we have a lot of talent. It's a lot of talent here. I think we okay at the running back position. I think we okay. We got a few more wide receivers, but our biggest focus on offense was mainly increasing our depth on the offensive line.
Yeah, when I did that game, I could remember and knowing the coaching staff where they like to run the football. They had a you know a whole bunch of running backs that were pretty doggone good against Clark. I think they rushed over 200 yards that game. But I also hear that you guys lost your quarterback. Did he go in the portal?
Yes, I think he went in the port. I think he's at Johnson C. Smith.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I'm surprised that you guys had a big time wide receiver, but I think he graduated.
He did.
Uh,
He
uh
did.
yeah, but you had a stable running backs. Did they all stay, or did some of them leave as well?
Well, I think the majority of the they only had a senior, one guy to leave. The other running backs are back. With that, I think that may be the strength of the team right now is the running backs. Because we got a couple of kids that can really play. I was very impressed with them in the weight room. Very impressed with how they approach the game, and the running back situation is going to be pretty good.
Yeah, good.
Well, Coach, let me ask a quick pop quiz. How many of the kids actually know who you are? That list.
Well, well, I don't quite get into that as much. Only thing I tell the kids is just Google me, and I think they get a kick out of that. But I get a kick out of telling them that too. So I'm not a guy that try to wear my stuff on my sleeve. I just try to work hard and get those guys to understand they believe in what I'm doing and what I'm teaching, that they can be successful, and the rest of it they just have to do that on their own.
Hey, Coach, I got to ask you this, Coach. Can you still spin it?
I probably can throw it about 5 or 6 times, and after that, I think I need to rub down. But yeah, I do still throw a little bit with the guys, but not as much as I used to. But these guys now, they can throw the ball, man. They can throw 60, 70 yards with no problem. But I try to stay away from that. I'm an old guy now, and I try to stay in my lane.
Yeah. Now, who are you ready to call a signal caller, or you gonna wait till you get back in the fall?
I think we're gonna wait. I think we had 4 guys that went through the spring, and I was pleased with their performance. But this thing starts all over again. What you did in the spring was just in the spring. I think when we start fall camp, we're gonna start all over again, and we're gonna do it, evaluate again, and the guy who come on top will be the guy who's gonna lead this team, and hopefully we'll come up with that decision probably before we play our first game.
Coach, I know you want to throw that thing, Coach, but do you have some targets out there to get the ball to?
Well, I kind of toned down a little bit from that. I kind of felt in that Johnnie Cole mode. I know he liked to throw the football, but Johnny and them, they have ran the football very well too. And as a head coach, you have to shift gears a little bit. When I was a head coach, guys want to throw the football every down, but you got to pay attention to what defense is doing too. You don't want to wear your defense out. You get an opportunity to run the football. You're going to run the football, and you get an opportunity to throw the football. And that's what we're going to do. I think we pretty much going to be 50-50. And I've developed that over the years. And yes, I like to throw the football, but if we can run the football, we're gonna run the football just as much as we're gonna throw it. And I know that take a lot of pressure off of the defense.
Do you have some guys to throw it to?
We were pretty impressed in the spring. we're going to go out and, you know, we got some guys that we looked at that we feel that going to come in and add to what we had in the spring. But we feel pretty good where we are, though. If we can beef up on that offensive line, I think our skill position going to be able to match up with anybody in this conference this fall.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, Fort Valley State it surprised me when I went out there on campus, the beautiful campus, and I see why they get good athletes out there because it sits out in a pretty area. Um, I think that the opportunity to get an opportunity to play out in Fort Valley, which is down in nowhere, I was surprised it's so far from Atlanta, you know, that we had to stay in some other area. I can't think of the area. But the stadium is beautiful. So what can we look, you know, when we do our countdown of where people gonna land at, where you think you guys are at as far as returning and what you have seen on the field?
To be honest, I really don't know. I mean, you know, with the pieces that we got coming back and the pieces that we added, you know, of course we got to come in and guys got to gel together. We got to get the continuity. But from my history, being in this conference, I had opportunity to coach at Clark Atlanta, had opportunity to coach at Albany State. Now since I've been here, there's no doubt that Fort Valley is going to be in the mix. I think we're going to be in the mix at the top. When it all said and done, I think we're going to be in the mix. Now, where we fall is going to be based on injuries, going to be based on continuity, and hopefully we'll finish at the top at the end of the day.
The Wildcats.
That's right,
Anything?
Wildcats, man. I'm a Wildcat. I've been a lot of things, boy. I was a Wildcat in high school, and now I'm back a Wildcat again. So that's amazing how things come full circle.
Well, Willie Todd, man, we go back 40 years, man, and I appreciate your time and your effort. I know we'll keep you on here an hour and a half of your time, and it's off season. I try to tell people this is the best time for coaching because they off. You know,
That's
I mean,
right.
I think you might be off, but you say
Yeah,
you've been
well,
there about 3 months. You got y'all playbook straight. I mean, you good to go. I appreciate you coming on the show, man, and I'm gonna let these guys say their last little piece, and then we're gonna give you your last little piece.
okay. I appreciate it, Johnny. I appreciate you, brother.
I just
Yeah.
want to, Coach Totten, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show. You know, initially I didn't know a lot about HBCU football, but one thing I did know, I knew who Willie Totten and Jerry Rice was, even when I was growing up. And so it's a pleasure to have you on. And Coach Cole said you're a great football player and coach, no doubt, but you're an even better person. And I tend to agree with him based on the experience we've had setting up this interview. And I want to thank you for coming on.
I appreciate you, Rock, man. And it takes guys like you to get the story out, man. And you guys continue to do what you guys are doing. I think you guys are doing an outstanding job. People need to know the stories. And if you don't have guys like yourself putting the story out there, people will never know. And you guys keep doing what you guys doing, man. And anything that I can do over here at Fort Valley to help you guys, just call me. And JC know he can call me. We talk all the time, and whatever I can do to help you guys, I appreciate it.
Well, Coach, I want to do my part because, like I told you, and I think for a lot of people from Mississippi, how proud we are of you because you were a black quarterback that threw the ball, that was cerebral. You broke all the stereotypes that many people talked about being a quarterback. So I'm just going to lead people so they understand, again, who this man was. Again, we're talking about the FCS all-time leader in career passing TDs, ranked second in career passing yards with 13,000. His 5,000 passing yards in 1984 was a single-season record. He twice led the nation in passing efficiency. 5 times in coach's career, he passed for over 530 yards, including a 599-yard game against Prairie View, and was an All-American setting the all-time single season touchdown passing mark of 56 for all of it, plus the 2 that he did in the playoffs for a total of 58. So, Coach, like I said, as a fellow Mississippian, I appreciate you being on. I appreciate your legacy, and I hope that these young people understand if it wasn't for you, there would not be the Shadors and the Cam Wards and the Michael Vicks and all these other guys that people root for, because you guys laid the groundwork for those guys.
Hey, I appreciate that, man. And only thing I can do is do what God had put me on this earth to do, and I'm going to continue to try to guide and lead these guys now, and hopefully you'll be hearing a lot more from Willie Totten at Fort Valley State University.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
God,
Hey,
go ahead.
I gotta ask Campbell this, right? Campbell, who is on the Mount Rushmore of Mississippi quarterbacks?
So you got to start with Steve McNair. Then you go and see now, because here's the thing. Brett Favre did not have the college career that Coach Totten had. So we're just talking college. But just to say, don't matter what order, Steve McNair, Willie Totten, Brett Favre,
Manning,
and Archie Manning. Yeah.
now, Archie and the son.
Yeah, well, Eli went to
Eli.
Ole Miss. Peyton did not. And I always tell people Eli was the better quarterback because he wasn't scared for that smoke. Peyton was too scared to carry the mantle of his daddy's legacy. That's why he took his behind up to Tennessee, because he was scared.
And then there's another guy they used to call Superman at Jackson State. I can't call his name.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
So
Yeah,
Terry O doesn't make the Mount Rushmore?
No, man, listen. See, this is what I'm saying. Those guys, Ken and all those guys, listen, there's levels to this. Those guys, as they say, they might be able to come to the club, but they ain't in the VIP.
No, it's another guy named John McKenzie.
Yeah. But even those guys, Coach, I'm gonna be honest with you. When you're talking about McNair and Totten, just on the HBCU level, it's way, so funny. Scott and them were doing their little quarterback thing. And again, I know what Perry was saying was that, I can only do the people that I watch. Well, you know what? You need to go find some old film, because all them guys could not hold the jockstrap to McNair and Totten. And it's them two, and Rocky's not even close. I mean, I'm just telling you.
So you bring up another great point. I'm going to ask Coach Cole this question. Who is on the Mount Rushmore of SWAC quarterbacks?
Jesus Christ, Coach.
Well, then we
I know a lot. You talking about Eldridge Dickey, of course those two. Of course those two. Doug Williams, man. It was just been so many, man. Brian Ransom, Tennessee State.
No,
he's
not in the SWAC, Coach.
Well, they would have to have a down mountain over about 10 skulls.
No, I'm just talking about SWAC. SWAC.
Yes.
Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, you got, of course, those two, Willie Totten, McNair. I like the John McKenzie at Jackson State, won 3 SWAC championships in a row at quarterback. But he had a great tailback in the counters, and another kid, I can't think of his name, but you probably can think of his name. Shador, he came in and threw for what, 4,000 yards in one season. His name got to be mentioned.
So let me say this. Now, I'm not a SWAC historian, but this is who I would have based on everything I've put in. Y'all tell me how this would be. Of course, it'd be Steve McNair, it'd be Willie Totten, it would be Doug Williams, and I'd have to put Bruce Eugene.
Yeah. See, that's another great one. I had the pleasure of either playing against those guys or watching them play. I can remember when Steve McNair was flushed out the pocket and he was running towards our bench. And man, he threw a ball. You could hear the wind off of it. Willie Totten, Bishop, he invented the fade throw, the go route. in the spin on the ball. If you ever, and we'll get a chance to meet him, Rocky, when we travel a little bit. When he shakes your hand, Rock, he swallows it. When he say he got big hands, he got big hands. Every time I always be trying to look at, man, don't be putting them big hands on me, man. Yeah.
Coach, now you know
Yeah.
who gonna call us, Coach. I forgot one person, but this was more. We can't forget James Shaq Harris too.
Yeah, you can't. But LG Dick, you can't.
And I'm just saying
you can't
SWAC
do
because,
that.
like I say, Dickey was a Tennessee State guy, but I'm just saying
Yeah.
SWAC when you're talking about,
Yeah.
and that's the thing, Rocky. When you go back and look at some
But
of the
Harris, he didn't have the numbers back then because they ran the ball a lot.
yeah,
You know what I mean? But he was special because he was one of the first to go into the NFL.
yeah.
You know.
So let me ask you this: if we do the Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks, does anybody in the MEAC, and this is HBCU now, so we're opening it up to the SWAC, MEAC, Independence, CIAA, SIAC. Who would you put on that? Is it any different than the SWAC Mount Rushmore?
See, we always in the SWAC have been tossing the ball around. The MEAC was more defense and run game. They had a kid out of North Carolina Central, but that's when Central was Division II. So you can't really put him up in the numbers. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking Florida A&M, Coach. I can't think of a guy that really put the big numbers up. Because the MEAC has always been that tough, rough. Oh, I'm sorry, I gotta say it. Jay Skywalker. I gotta say that name.
Yeah.
Because he's in the Hall of Fame.
He goes on the Mount Rushmore?
Yes. Jay
So
Skywalker.
which guy do you take off? You take off Bruce Eugene?
Oh no, you can't take off Bruce Eugene now.
You take off Willie Totten?
No, you got to go. We would have to go with them four.
No, what we're saying, we already got four. We got Doug, we have Willie Totten, we have Steve McNair, and we have Bruce Eugene. And if you
the only reason why Doug is up there because he went on to be successful in the NFL. His numbers weren't incredible, but Doug, they were just winning so much. The show was on the road. It was Showtime.
Okay.
But when you look at the numbers, you got to put Jay Skywalker up in there too.
So you're saying, now let me catch this right.
And Coach, I forgot, I coached two of them at Tennessee State. I forgot about Leon Murray, who was a 3,000-yarder and a Heisman candidate as well. You know, so
Coach, and I'll tell you what, Coach, I'm gonna tell you who I forgot too was a bad boy. And I don't know if we said it, was Sean Gregory.
Sean Gregory. He came in after McKenzie.
Well, he came out the Boyd.
Gerald Ashbury.
Yeah.
And what about the kid we were just talking about? The kid they used to call Superman.
Yeah, Kent.
Jackson State. Kent was a bad boy. Kent's throwing motion was just awkward, but he was a bad boy too. And these guys are 3,000. This is the 3,000-yard passers. Let's start right there. So if you didn't throw for 3,000, you can't be on Mount Rushmore. That would knock off Doug. That would knock off Gregory. That would knock those guys off. Then you left with Totten, McNair, Eugene, and maybe Leon Murray, who was a 3,000-yard passer.
What about Jay? Did Jay go over 3,000?
Jay Skywalker. Yeah, I think he had 1 year 3,000 too. So that's. So
what about this guy says? Me Jones. It may be a lady. So excuse me, I'm not sure. She says Bruce Eugene was the greatest QB at the HBCU level I ever saw. Well,
he was the biggest. You can say that. But boy, and he could spin it, boy. He could spin it with the best, boy. He could do it, man. Smart, very intelligent. He beat me in the SWAC championship game.
Should we even acknowledge this from Glenn Big Baby Davis?
Listen, Akil Glass, man, listen. As far as new era quarterbacks, yeah, I mean, new era guys. I mean, we threw 3,000 at least twice.
Yeah.
So Coach
But
Cole,
here's the other thing. Hold on. Here's the other thing that all them dudes done. They won. They won championships.
let me just ask a couple questions because we got in this conversation we're missing a lot of schools. So I just want you to give me a quarterback from. Give me the. I'll let you give me the Southern guy, Mr. Campbell. Who's the greatest Southern quarterback of all time?
Man, I'm gonna let Coach answer that because I'm gonna be honest with you. Because I'm just trying to think of Southern always had like dual threat quarterback. They just didn't have a guy that was just like slinging.
When I was there, they had two quarterbacks. I recruited one of them. Was Eric Randall, who won the SWAC championship twice.
I remember him. Wasn't he an LSU
But he wasn't
guy
no.
too?
Yeah, he wasn't no passer though. He was a
an
multiple
LSU guy though.
And a guy named Sam George from Southern. He was he was about 5'8". I recruited him out of Opelousas, and man, he could throw it, Coach. He could throw it like he could throw it.
So we already took care of it's kind of like Jackson State, Mississippi Valley, and Alcorn. Let's talk about Alabama State. I think we all can agree that Tavares Jackson.
Yeah.
Man, Coach, I forgot, man. Darnell Kennedy, 3,000-yard passer, ranked in the top 5 in NCAA throwing the football. Started 4 years in a row. Incredible. I had opportunity to coach him. He was incredible. He played in a Senior Bowl down in Mobile. That tell you how good he was. I forgot all about him. You know, he broke a lot of broke some conference records as well.
Oh, okay. So is that Alabama State or is that
Alabama State?
Alabama State, yeah.
so Gil Glass, Alabama A&M?
Couldn't touch. He couldn't touch Darnell Kennedy. Couldn't touch him, Coach.
So who do we have at FAMU, Coach? Is Musa the greatest quarterback to ever don a?
You had Bonner and
what's my man, the head coach at Albany State?
Quinn Gray.
Woo, he can play.
Yeah, Quinn Gray, Bonner, Quinn Gray.
Yeah. Quinn Gray was cold. He was cold.
That
with
was the one that we run that Gulf Coast offense and we were just killing everybody.
Yeah.
See, Rocky, let me tell you something. See, everybody can do that talk, but see, we was winning playoff games.
And
everybody can't say that. We was winning them.
And what about when we go to the Texas schools? I'm gonna go with KJ Black probably at Prairie View. I don't remember anybody else other than him.
Yeah, KJ Black.
And then I'll let you tell us about Texas Southern, Coach Cole.
Shit, you're looking at it. It's been voted on. It's been voted on, Coach. They voted down, and he was the best quarterback to ever come through Texas Southern. That ain't my words. That's the word down there.
You know, such a team,
Coach. Every time. And I didn't throw for 3,000. I threw for 2,500.
Hey, I got my own pick. This is my pick, and Coach, I gotta go. I'm buying.
On a count of 3, if you at home with me, 1, 2, 3, and your buddy.
That's the Texas
Stop
Southern quarterback.
with that man.
To me, that's my Texas Southern quarterback right there of all time.
Yeah, he was a flash in the pan, Coach.
Yeah,
he was a flash in the pans, Coach.
Well, hey, I honestly, I hope Andrew is healthy, and I can't wait to see him play this upcoming season at Alabama State, Coach. I'm really looking forward to him playing, and I can't wait.
I had an opportunity to talk with the dad, and they feel real good where they are. They're taking it real easy. He's on a throw count. The surgeon really kind of got in there and cleaned it out real good and tightened it up. And, you know, there's a difference between an orthopedic surgery guy and just a shoulder surgery guy, you know, meaning that, and I can remember when I broke my arm, they put a plate in it and they were letting me know, well, we're doing this because, you know, your career is over at that time. So, you know, you got two different type of doctors, two different, you know, one that deals with these type of injuries wherever he had, to fix it the right way so he can continue to play. And then there's some surgeries that they just putting you back together, because it's detached. You know what I mean? So they feel real good. The family feel real good. Body is real good. Coach Robinson down there, they're working him slowly through what he's doing, and I think he'll be ready to rock and roll.
Oh yeah, I like I say, I can't wait. It was, I know they lost the game last year, but he had a scintillating performance before he went out with an injury, and so I'm just looking forward to see what he can do. He may be the next great SWAC quarterback.
We're coming down to we're coming down to the end of our show for the summer, but we got one for next week, and
Okay.
Shannon Harris, who's currently the head coach of the DC Defenders for the XFL. He's an HBCU former football player for Tennessee State. He played quarterback as well. So me and him talked, and he would like to be on the show. We would like him to be on the show. So we're looking for that for next week. And they're doing well in the XFL. Check him out this weekend coming. The playoffs have started. They finished number one in their division during regular season. He's the interim new head coach. He took over from Barlow, so it'll be an exciting time to chat with him and catch up with Shannon Harris.
Hey, Coach. I want to thank you because again, having Willie Totten on was a great show. We have our FAMU guy efforting, so hopefully, maybe by basketball season we'll have Coach Ward on.
We're working on it. Might be sooner than later. Still working on it. He's recruiting, but we're gonna try to get him on here before we get up out of here, or have a special edition.
Okay, we may have a special edition. But Coach, I don't have anything else. You guys can wrap it up now, man. But thank you again, Coach. Thank you again, Campbell, for joining me on the show.
All right.
Well, Coach, I'm gonna say this real quick because I think this is very important. Florida A&M has now selected the 13th president to be confirmed by the Board of Governors, a person that we felt was not qualified, a person that we felt was not in the running, a person that we don't feel has the best interests of Florida A&M at heart. And this should really, I see a lot of people, on social media and on these different YouTube channels, they think things are a joke. But I want everybody to understand something. Our HBCUs are the biggest suppliers of African-American wealth and power. And when one of us hurts, all of us hurt. So when they are disrupting and destabilizing, this is part of Project 2025. So you see what they've done at Jackson. You see what they've done at South Carolina State. You see what they've done at Tennessee State. You see what they're doing at FAMU. So I'm asking all my HBCU people to understand that we need to come together and start flexing our muscles. Because if we do not, Coach, what HBCUs, their mission is, they're going to just change it of just going from A to B, not A to Z. So I want everybody to understand that. And like I say, you see the FAMU people, and like I say, shout out to the 4 people that voted against her, and Kristen Harper, our chairwoman, the board of trustees, very proud of her because she did her damn thing. But like I say, I want my people down there in Jackson to fight. Do not let those people once again give you a bad president. That school deserves better. FAMU deserves better. Tennessee State deserves better. And I'm really, really hoping that people do their research and not just make a joke of all these presidents. Again, I know we laugh and have our fun, but this thing has become serious, y'all. This thing has become really serious. And if we allow our flagship universities to be taken over by people that want to do us harm, then that's our failure. So like I say, Coach, we need to tie a rope, Coach. Got to tie that rope. So I appreciate you. Thank you, Coach. And thank you for allowing me to talk to Willie Totten. That was one of my great people that I idolized, and it was an honor to have him on tonight.
Yeah. Appreciate it, man. And, just FYI, there's over 20 presidential positions open in HBCUs right now today. over 20 presidential offices or positions to be the president of colleges in HBCU. We change presidents like we change socks on a shoe sometimes. And it's hard to build continuity when you got so much turnover. One of the things I've always said about when we talked about HBCUs is make sure they got skin in the game. Make sure, and it's a lot of HBCU graduates would love to come back and be a part of these universities. So that's kind of how I seen it. Hopefully, we trust in our board of regents to choose the right people. But as the world continue to turn and as things continue to happen in our world, but there's a lot of great things. I think social media or media period sometimes uh, put on so much negative stuff that there's so much great happening. So as I always say, if you feel yourself at the end of the rope, tie a knot and hold on tight, because ain't nobody bad like you.